Today we will be taking a look at one of the what-if scenarios inside Panzer Corps Afrika Korps. The scenario Palestine in particular. What if the DAK was sent upwards through the coast to relieve airborne troops who were deployed to secure key refineries in the north? In addition, naval combat will play a role inside this mission. For starters, let's get our panzer divisions to advance upwards. The British armor just simply don't stand a chance against their superior tanks. They're quickly eliminated. Now in the southern portion of the map I keep a small force designed to scout and eliminate villages that so happen to appear. It's mainly comprised of artillery and infantry. I use the tanks to stay ahead of the main body to cover my infantry during the assault. Meanwhile, inside the north I deploy paratrooper artillery and AT guns to help support the forces defending the refineries. The Allied troops will be aiming to destroy those key refineries, so I try to set up a perimeter in which I can defend a little better. The British counterattack yields no fruit. They're simply dwindling their own numbers. At the moment, my advances look pretty good. We're making great progress, and the enemy will probably bleed himself dry. It is most likely that his reserves are mobilized to intercept my forces in the north and at the south, so after we defeat this counterattack, the enemy will most likely have no reserves. Possibly the greatest threat comes from the British Navy. I call in my battleships to intercept their forces, specifically their battleships. I hope that if we pick them off one by one, we can reduce their overall effectiveness and break them like such. If we destroy the British Navy, our battleships will be able to provide support to the DAK with shore bombardment at key cities along the coast. A very useful feature, since it'll reduce the time in which we take to siege these positions. Meanwhile, we continue our advance and kill the rest of the counterattack. If the battle continues going at this pace, it'll simply be a matter of time before we reach our forces on the northern portion of the map. I call in some of our fighters to deal with British air forces. Right now we have air superiority, so I'm not too worried. Forces in the north have been putting up a good fight against the British. However, most of the forces here are simply infantrymen and artillery guns who are no match against armored tanks and such. It'll be difficult to maintain these positions for a very long period of time without supply. Therefore, I make it my goal to relieve these forces as fast as possible. In the sea, I continue to eliminate British forces one by one. I find that submarine attacks are most effective. The British land forces are just simply too easy. They're defeated within a very short amount of time in just a simple few strokes. Perhaps our advances on land are a little too successful. I am hesitant to use our limited air forces in doing air reconnaissance. We see some more of the British Navy. I hope the British Navy does not condense themselves and form up. British bombers take a heavy toll on my ships. One of my vanguards come under heavy fire from more British armor. I don't know if that's the last of the last. Hopefully it is. Fight in the north continues. It's still fairly mild. As you can see, the British are starting to run out of ammunition and such. For the most part, our troops have enough supply to last them a few more days. On the southern front, I continue our advance. I have to capture all the towns, so I use my infantry and artillery to do so. This is more or less a race to relieve the troops in the north, so I moved my tanks far northwards. Artillery fire is very effective in the north. It's one of the few things saving my troops up here. We did lose one refinery, as you can see. The mission still goes on, although we take a prestige hit. In the middle of the map, we encounter fortified enemy positions near this town in the hills. I eliminate the armored divisions there and take out their artillery guns before advancing on the village itself. I'm contemplating whether or not to simply leave enemy strongpoints alive for the sake of time. They don't provide much of a security risk to my rear, although should it happen, would it simply be better to eliminate them right now rather than pay later on? The next few turns are more or less the same. My forces in the south continue their advance, my forces in the north continue to rout the enemy and defeat them while defending key locations. Ultimately, I decide to take out enemy strongpoints. British air superiority is becoming a problem. It's the main source of damage to my troops. Most of my air forces are simply blockaded within their own airfield. They cannot advance to support my troops. So instead I opt to destroy enemy airfields to push back their control range. With every airfield lost, the enemy needs to move farther back to resupply and reinforce their aircraft. The weather changes for the better. A sandstorm occurs which lowers visibility, keeping British air superiority out of the factors at hand. Therefore, my troops can get rest and move forward without being hindered by the enemy's fighters and bombers. I use this time to strategically deploy my troops. Fighting inside the city will be tough. A small division will be securing the river crossings and such. The appearance of a Churchill tank division proves to be bothersome. It's very hard to destroy and can do a lot of damage. Most of the enemy forces have been eliminated from the north, so I use this force to push into the south to further speed up the process of linking up with the south. The enemy still has armored reserves. Fighting in the city continues, more or less the same stuff. Tanks cannot advance into the city squares without suffering heavy losses from infantry fire, making taking out the Churchill very hard. Running out of time is a very real possibility at the moment. In the end, we were able to draw out the opponent, however we were not able to fully eliminate them. I've gotta say, it was quite a nice scenario. The AI put up quite a difficult fight, even though it was on the kind of rookie setting, I guess. The mid-level setting, so to speak. Overall, the scenario was very well designed. I mean, you got your naval considerations, air considerations, and two-pronged attack from the north and the south. Pretty enjoyable in my opinion.